Sophia sat in the courtroom, clutching her hands tightly in her lap. Her stomach churned with nerves, her gaze darting between the rows of people staring at her. Some were whispering, others just watched, but their eyes all screamed the same thing. How did she end up here? She swallowed hard, her mind racing back to the day she found out she was pregnant. It had been a regular Thursday, a day like any other, but it was also the day that would turn her life upside down. Sophia was a 24-year-old waitress at a small diner in Atlanta. Life had never been easy, but she made it work. Her world revolved around double shifts, late nights, and trying to save enough to rent a decent place. She wasn't looking for love or any kind of miracle, just stability. So when her period was late, she didn't panic. Stress, she told herself, that's all it was. But 2 weeks later, the dizziness started, then the nausea. Eventually, a trip to the free clinic confirmed what she could barely believe. She was pregnant. Sophia sat in the tiny exam room, staring at the test results. That's impossible, she whispered. I don't even. She stopped herself. She didn't have a boyfriend. She hadn't been with anyone. The doctor, a man in his 50s with a cold demeanor, adjusted his glasses. Well, he said flatly, the results don't lie. You're 8 weeks along, but... She shook her head. How? I mean, I haven't been with anyone, Miss Smith, he interrupted. It's not my job to guess your personal life. All I can tell you is that you're pregnant. At first, Sophia convinced herself it was a mistake. Maybe the test was wrong. But as the weeks passed, there was no denying it. Her belly began to grow, and with it came a storm of emotions. Fear, confusion, and a deep sense of shame. Her co-workers noticed, her landlord noticed, and soon, her whole world felt like it was crumbling. By the time she hit her second trimester, Sophia decided to keep the baby. She didn't understand how it happened, but she knew one thing: the child growing inside her didn't deserve to suffer. She would figure it out, no matter what. The day her son was born, Sophia cried. He was perfect, with smooth brown skin and big, curious eyes. She named him Isaiah. For the first time in months, she felt something other than fear. She felt love. But as Isaiah grew, Sophia couldn't shake the questions in her mind. He was healthy, happy, but something didn't add up. His features didn't resemble hers, or anyone in her family. His hair was lighter, his eyes a shade of hazel she'd never seen before. It wasn't until a nosy neighbor commented on Isaiah's exotic look that Sophia's unease turned into determination. I need answers, she told her best friend Carla one evening. Something isn't right. I know it. Months later, Sophia scraped together enough money for a DNA test. When the results came back, she was stunned. Isaiah wasn't biologically hers. The test showed she had no genetic link to the child she had carried for 9 months. How is that even possible? Carla asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, Sophia whispered, but I'm going to find out. Sophia's search for the truth led her back to the clinic where she first learned she was pregnant. She requested her medical records, but the receptionist told her they were incomplete. Frustrated, Sophia began researching the clinic and its staff. That's when she stumbled upon a story buried deep in a local news archive. It was about Dr. Charles Becker, the very doctor who had confirmed her pregnancy. He had been accused years ago of unethical practices but had never been charged. Sophia's heart pounded as she read the details. Rumors of switching patients' embryos, secret deals with wealthy clients. Could it be true? After months of digging, Sophia finally uncovered the horrifying truth. Dr. Becker had taken a fertilized embryo from a wealthy couple clients of his private fertility program and implanted it into her without her consent. The child she had carried wasn't hers by blood. He was the biological son of a millionaire couple desperate for an heir. Sophia was livid. Her body had been used without her permission. She had been treated like nothing more than a vessel. And now, she faced the possibility of losing the son she had come to love more than life itself. The court battle was brutal. The millionaire couple claimed they had no idea about Dr. Becker's actions and argued that Isaiah was their rightful child. Sophia fought back with everything she had. She told the judge about the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, and the unconditional love she had given Isaiah. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment saying I love my mom. to show some love and appreciation for all the incredible moms out there, because every act of kindness starts at home, and your support means the world to us. This child isn't just DNA, she said, her voice breaking. He's my son. I carried him. I gave birth to him, and I've been there every single day of his life. I didn't ask for this, but I won't let anyone take him away from me. In the end, the judge ruled in Sophia's favor. The court recognized her as Isaiah's legal mother, and the couple agreed to drop their custody claim. But the victory was bittersweet. Sophia knew that Isaiah would grow up with questions about his origins, and she wasn't sure how she would answer them. Years later, as Isaiah grew into a bright, curious boy, Sophia told him the truth in simple terms. "You're special," she said, holding his hand. "You have a piece of me and a piece of someone else. But what matters most is that you're loved, and no one can ever take that away." Sophia's fight for Isaiah wasn't just about keeping her son, it was about reclaiming her dignity and standing up against the injustice done to her. And though the scars of that fight would always remain, so would the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. Life after the court battle wasn't easy for Sophia, but she had never been one to give up. The media frenzy around the case eventually died down, but in her community, she was both admired and scrutinized. Some people called her a hero for standing up to powerful people. Others whispered that she had just gotten lucky, that she didn't deserve to raise a millionaire's son. Through it all, Isaiah remained her anchor. He was the reason she got up every morning, the reason she pushed through the whispers and stares. But there was still one thing that haunted her: Dr. Charles Becker. Though his actions had been exposed, he had only received a temporary suspension of his medical license. Sophia couldn't accept that. What he had done to her, and likely to countless other women, was more than unethical. It was criminal. She vowed to make sure he would never hurt anyone else. Sophia reached out to other women who had visited Dr. Becker's clinic. Some had stories eerily similar to hers: pregnancies that didn't make sense, children who didn't look like them, and records that had mysteriously gone missing. Slowly but surely, a pattern emerged. With Carla's help, Sophia gathered testimonies and reached out to a lawyer who specialized in medical malpractice. Together, they built a case against Dr. Becker, this time aiming not just for a suspension but for full accountability. The process was grueling. Sophia relived every painful detail of her experience during depositions and interviews. But she refused to back down. He thought he could get away with it because women like me don't have the resources to fight back, she told her lawyer one day. Well, he picked the wrong woman. The case gained traction when a whistleblower came forward, a former nurse at Dr. Becker's clinic. The nurse revealed that Becker had been running an illegal embryo swapping scheme for years, catering to wealthy clients who wanted designer children. The revelations were shocking, and the media picked up the story again. Sophia's case became a symbol of systemic inequality and medical abuse. People from all walks of life rallied behind her. Activists, lawyers, and even politicians spoke out about the need for stronger regulations in reproductive health care. When the trial finally began, Sophia sat in the courtroom, her heart pounding as the prosecution laid out the evidence. One by one, witnesses testified about Becker's manipulations, his greed, and his total disregard for the lives he had disrupted. Sophia was the last to take the stand. She spoke with quiet strength, recounting her experience and the impact it had on her life. "Dr. Becker thought I didn't matter," she said, her voice steady. "He thought my life was worth less than the people who paid him. But I'm here to tell you that every life matters, and no one has the right to play God with someone else's body." The jury deliberated for 2 days before reaching a verdict. Dr. Becker was found guilty of multiple charges, including medical malpractice, fraud, and assault. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to his victims. For Sophia, it was a victory, but it was also a moment of reflection. She hadn't just fought for herself and Isaiah. She had fought for every woman who had been silenced, overlooked, or violated. Years passed, and Sophia built a life she could be proud of. She started a nonprofit organization to support women who had experienced medical abuse, providing them with resources, legal aid, and a platform to share their stories. Her work was hard, but it was also healing. Isaiah grew into a kind, thoughtful young man. He knew his story, and while it wasn't easy to understand, he never doubted the love his mother had for him. One evening, as they sat on their small porch watching the sunset, Isaiah turned to her. "Mom," he said, "do you ever wish things had been different?" Sophia thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No," she said softly, "because every twist and turn brought me you. And no matter how hard it's been, I wouldn't trade that for anything." Isaiah smiled, leaning his head on her shoulder. "I'm glad you're my mom." Sophia wrapped her arm around him, holding him close. The road they had traveled was long and filled with pain, but in that moment, it all felt worth it. They had each other, and that was enough. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sophia let herself dream of a brighter future, not just for herself, but for every woman who had ever been told she didn't matter. Because she knew now, more than ever, that they all did. As Isaiah grew older, his curiosity about his origins deepened. By the time he turned 13, he started asking more pointed questions. "Mom, do you think my biological parents ever think about me?" he asked one evening after dinner. Sophia paused, her hands tightening around the dish towel she was holding. She had always promised herself she would be honest with Isaiah, but his questions often left her unsure of how much to share. "I think they probably do," she said, carefully. "But what matters is that you're here, with me, and we have each other." Isaiah nodded, but the question lingered. Sophia knew it was only a matter of time before he wanted to know more. One afternoon, while Sophia was volunteering at her nonprofit, she received a call from Carla. Her voice was urgent. "Sophia, you're not going to believe this. I just saw a news segment about the Taylors. You know, the couple connected to Isaiah's case." Sophia's stomach dropped. "What about them?" "They're hosting some big charity gala in Atlanta this weekend. And guess what? They're still claiming they had no idea what Dr. Becker did." Sophia's mind raced. She hadn't had any contact with the Taylors since the custody battle. They had quietly stepped away after the trial, and she had assumed they wanted nothing more to do with the situation. But now, seeing their faces plastered on TV, it all came rushing back. She debated telling Isaiah but decided against it. He was too young to fully understand the complexities of the situation. Instead, she reached out to her lawyer to see if there was anything she needed to be concerned about. A week later, Sophia received an invitation to the gala. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Why would the Taylors invite her to such an event? But after some thought, she decided to go. If they wanted to talk, she would hear them out for Isaiah's sake. When she arrived, the atmosphere was overwhelming. The room was filled with wealthy donors, photographers, and journalists. Sophia felt out of place, but she held her head high. She was here for a reason. It didn't take long for the Taylors to approach her. Mr. Taylor, a tall, polished man in his 50s, extended a hand. "Sophia," he said, his voice warm but cautious. "It's good to see you." Mrs. Taylor stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming," she said. "We've been wanting to reach out to you for some time." Sophia's heart pounded. "Why now?" she asked, her voice steady. Mrs. Taylor glanced around nervously before leaning in. "We didn't know how to approach you, but we've been following Isaiah's life through the news. We've seen how much love and care you've given him, and we wanted to say thank you." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "Thank me? For raising a child I didn't consent to carry? For going through hell to keep him after everything your doctor did to me?" Mr. Taylor held up a hand. "We're not here to make excuses. What happened to you was unforgivable, and we regret being involved in any way. But Isaiah is a part of us too, and we'd like to find a way to be in his life if that's something you'd consider." Sophia was stunned. After years of silence, the Taylors were asking to be part of Isaiah's life. Part of her wanted to slam the door on the idea. But another part, the part that had always put Isaiah first, wondered if this was an opportunity for him to have answers she could never provide. "I'll have to think about it," she said finally. That night, she lay awake, replaying the conversation in her mind. She didn't trust the Taylors, but she also knew that Isaiah would one day seek them out. Maybe it was better to start building that bridge now, on her terms. When Sophia finally told Isaiah about the meeting, he was quiet for a long time. Then, he surprised her. "Do you think they're good people?" he asked. Sophia hesitated. "I think they're complicated people. They made mistakes, big ones, but they also seem to care about you." Isaiah nodded. "I want to meet them." Sophia's heart sank and swelled at the same time. She had feared this moment but also knew it was inevitable. "Okay," she said. "We'll do it together." The first meeting was awkward but civil. The Taylors were respectful, and Isaiah was curious but cautious. Over time, a fragile relationship began to form. The Taylors became occasional presences in Isaiah's life, not parents, but people who cared about him and wanted to know him. For Sophia, it was a test of her strength and grace. She had fought so hard to protect Isaiah, and now she was learning to share him in a way that didn't compromise her role as his mother. In the end, the journey was messy and imperfect, but it was also a testament to the power of love and resilience. Sophia had fought for Isaiah, and now she was giving him the chance to find his own path, one that honored the truth of where he came from while celebrating the life they had built together. And through it all, one thing remained unshakable: the bond between a mother and her son. No amount of DNA or money could ever change that. As Isaiah grew older, the relationship with the Taylors remained cautious but amicable. They attended a few of his milestones, like his middle school graduation and his first basketball game, always staying in the background while Sophia remained the center of his world. But as Isaiah approached his 18th birthday, he started asking deeper questions. "Mom," he said one evening, "do you think I'll ever really feel like I belong? I mean, the Taylors are nice, but it's weird sometimes. They look at me like I'm a puzzle they're trying to figure out." Sophia sighed. "Belonging isn't about who you look like, Isaiah. It's about who's there for you, who loves you. You'll always belong with me, but if you want to get closer to them, that's your choice. You're old enough now to decide what kind of relationship you want." Isaiah nodded but didn't respond. Sophia could see the wheels turning in his mind, and it scared her. She had given him everything she could, but the truth was, Isaiah was stepping into a world where identity and belonging weren't always simple. A few weeks after Isaiah's 18th birthday, Sophia received a call from Mrs. Taylor. She hadn't expected it. Their interactions were usually formal and scheduled through texts or emails. "We'd like to talk to you and Isaiah about something," Mrs. Taylor said, her voice tentative. "What is it?" Sophia asked, already on edge. Mrs. Taylor hesitated. "We've been thinking about Isaiah's future. He's an incredible young man, and we want to help him succeed. We'd like to offer to pay for his college education." Sophia's breath caught. She knew Isaiah had dreams of going to college, but the financial burden had been a constant worry. Still, the idea of accepting help from the Taylors stirred a mix of emotions: gratitude, resentment, and suspicion. "I'll talk to Isaiah," Sophia said finally. "But this isn't a decision I can make for him." When Sophia told Isaiah about the Taylor's offer, he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Do you think they're just trying to buy me, Mom?" Sophia looked at him, her heart breaking a little at his question. "I think they genuinely want to help," she said carefully. "But you need to decide if you're comfortable accepting their help. It doesn't mean you owe them anything, Isaiah. It's your future, and you get to choose." Isaiah nodded. "I'll talk to them." The meeting with the Taylors was tense but honest. Isaiah asked them why they wanted to pay for his education, and their answer surprised him. "You're our son, Isaiah," Mr. Taylor said. "Not in the way Sophia is your mother. She's done the real work of raising you, and we'll always respect that. But you're still a part of us, and we want to do what we can to support you." Isaiah thought for a moment. "I'll accept your help," he said, "but I need you to understand something. Sophia is my mom. She's the one who's been there for me every step of the way. I'm grateful for what you're offering, but that doesn't change who I am or where I belong." The Taylors nodded, their expressions a mix of pride and sadness. They knew they would always be second in Isaiah's life, and they respected him even more for it. With the Taylors' financial support, Isaiah attended a prestigious university, studying sociology and public policy. He wanted to make a difference in the world, inspired by his mother's fight for justice and the complex journey of his own life. Sophia visited him often, and their bond remained as strong as ever. Isaiah also kept in touch with the Taylors, meeting them for occasional dinners or holidays, but he never let those relationships overshadow his connection with Sophia. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment saying, "I love my mom," to show some love and appreciation for all the incredible moms out there, because every act of kindness starts at home, and your support means the world to us. One day, during his sophomore year, Isaiah called Sophia with exciting news. "Mom, I've been selected for an internship at a nonprofit that works with families affected by medical malpractice. It's exactly what I want to do." Sophia's heart swelled with pride. "That's amazing, Isaiah. I'm so proud." By the time Isaiah graduated, he had become a passionate advocate for victims of systemic injustice. He joined Sophia's nonprofit, helping expand its reach and influence. Together, they worked to ensure no woman would ever endure what Sophia had gone through. A fundraising event for their organization, Isaiah gave a speech that left the room in tears. "My story is complicated," he began. "I'm the product of choices I didn't make, born into circumstances that were out of my control. But what I've learned is that our origins don't define us. It's the love and support we have along the way that shape who we are. My mom taught me that. She fought for me before I was even born, and she's still fighting today, not just for me, but for everyone who needs a voice." Sophia wiped tears from her eyes as the room erupted in applause. Isaiah walked over to her, wrapping her in a tight hug. "Thank you for everything, Mom," he whispered. "I didn't do it alone," she replied, her voice full of emotion. "You've been fighting right alongside me." In the years that followed, Sophia and Isaiah's nonprofit became a national force for change. They helped pass legislation to protect patients from medical abuse and provided support for countless families. Isaiah's story became a symbol of resilience and justice, proving that even in the face of unimaginable adversity, love and determination could light the way forward. And as Sophia watched her son grow into the man she always knew he could be, she felt a deep, unshakable sense of peace. Their journey had been anything but easy, but together, they had turned pain into purpose and created a legacy that would endure for generations. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment saying, "I love my mom," to show some love and appreciation for all the incredible moms out there, because every act of kindness starts at home, and your support means the world to us.